Man, look at this epic gate. Look at these guys. Oh, cars come through out here still, I think. Oh no, cars not coming. Porto Novo. Ah. That's how they used to do it when they conquered people, the Romans. I can't see it. Am I getting let into the city? I guess I am. Here we go. This guy's beautifully playing violin. Still used. Don't want to get hit. Porto Novo. Newport. Bellissimo. I love violin. Get to see these things of vanquished armies. You know, they were really in tune with the classics, starting in the Renaissance, so they built this in the style of the Romans, Greeks kind of too. So once you enter the city, see it's still used. Cars driving through. That's what you see. And the palace is kind of behind me here, over there, I believe. We're gonna learn more about this. Oh, Italy and your amazing architecture and history. What can I say? Sicily now included. All right, this epic gate, 1569 to 1585. It was built, touched up in 1668. This was a gate. I'm still researching the exact history of Palermo, but whoever was ruling here at the time in the Renaissance, this was the entrance to the city. These four crazy-looking guys are guarding the entrance. What kind of like Arab guys? You know, they had a lot of Arab history here, still used. It's pretty awesome. Gotta make sure I don't get hit by a car. Anyways, this was the gate. This was the outside. People coming into Palermo. Got to see this beautiful tower up there. All right, let's check out the other side. Porto Novo. All right, so let's get into the post-Norman Palermo history. Where a lot of architecture and tons of Catholic churches were built. Likely this one, this pillar here, that's really cool looking. This is real typical of southern Italy, actually, this kind of scene with the big tower. Church nearby, I saw several of these in Naples. I think this is the only one like this in Palermo that I've seen, but there's likely more. Anyways, the Norman times ended, and the multi-religious times ended too for Palermo. So it had a long, rich history of really cool stuff going on. Where everyone was kind of mixed together, you know, it was a flourishing place. And initially, I never find my spot. Okay, initially, oh, by the way, 1194 to 1412 we're talking about. So initially, when the royal houses switched power, it was like, just like everywhere, really, in all of Europe, this royal houses and people switching power, very confusing. For some reason, probably through some marriage alliance or something, the last Norman king or prince handed off power to someone else called the Swabians. So the population actually plummeted in these centuries after 1200, pretty much, to minuscule amounts compared to the few centuries earlier in the height of the Arab and the Norman times, where it was a massive city, 500,000 people, mostly due to migration. So this guy named Frederick II was a Swabian German who became the Holy Roman Emperor. He moved his court. He liked the city so much, he moved his court to Palermo when it went into Swabian hands. So initially it was okay still, everyone was kind of intermingling, but then and subsequent Swabian rulers, it kind of fell into a bad state for several reasons. 1266, it fell out of the German hands and was conquered by the House of Avengin, who were French people. It took over briefly. Then something happened in 1282 called it was a popular uprising called the Sicilian Vespers. They disposed the French Avengin royal house that ruled for a little bit. A bunch of people were massacred, especially French-speaking people in the city of Palermo. Pretty rough history. So the Sicilian Vespers kind of transitioned power to someone else that was kind of helping them in their revolt called the Aragonese. So they're a royal house from southeast Spain, kind of near Barcelona, Valencia, stuff like that. And Spanish hands is what Palermo would be in for the next several centuries, like when a lot of this stuff was built. So this is long, they obviously had local Italian people. One of the things they did, though, in this time was the Jewish and Muslim people that were on the island were no longer treated fairly and heavily criticized. Anyone who was not Catholic for the first time ever was basically tried to get to convert or be deported or worse. A bunch of crazy stuff happened. So the city, though, flourished once again under as a port city, kind of, though. It was connected to many places like Genoa in Spain. From 1282 to 1409, a lot of plazas like this and churches and construction were done. So, it wasn't all bad, but especially bad was the Jewish and Muslim population of Palermo either converted, they moved away to places like North Africa or other places in Europe, at least the Jewish people, or they were rounded up by the Swabians, and some leader had a great idea to send them to Puligia area of, I always say that area wrong, Puglia. Send them down over to Puglia because they were masters at farming, and basically they were like indentured servants there for a while, and they were actually the last Arab-speaking people on mainland Europe for a long time. But yeah, back to the Spanish ruling. Left that out for some reason. We're jumping around. The Spanish ruling was pretty much they're trying to get everyone to be Catholic. But in the 1300s, it was its own kind of independent kingdom still, Kingdom of Sicily. But in 409 to 412, the Kingdom of Sicily run by a royal family, the Aragonese. 409 to 412, this Kingdom of Sicily and the Crown of Aragon was absorbed into the Empire of Spain. So the Crown of Aragon was Sardinia, the islands of Sardinia, Corsica, Sicily, and all along the southeast coast of Spain, around Barcelona and Valencia and stuff like that. So, Palermo was then in the Spanish Empire. No kids in it. No kids. This isn't a kid. Scusa.
I know, but they think you're famous or something. Yeah, they don't know. You
have to blink out their faces and stuff like that. Yeah. No kids. All right. That's why we're moving. Okay. I love the kids.
But there's sometimes the parents don't like it.
So it's interesting because, a lot of people don't realize this, but the Empire of Spain in the 1400s was soon to grow massive and world power. Including places like Mexico, all along South America, Peru, Bolivia, Colombia, places like that, the Caribbean, Hispaniola, and all over, even places like the Netherlands. That was a part of the Spanish Empire at the time. Africa, the different spots along the African coast, the trade routes into Asia and more. It was massive, like the Philippines, that was a part of the Spanish Empire. I think Malacca might have been for a while, Malaysia, some different areas. Anyways, let's focus on Palermo. Palermo and the island of Sicily was also part of that. So, kind of another rough history thing. Kind of, Lord, do you have a question?
When did they join Italy, or have they always been a part of Italy?
A lot of people also don't know the Kingdom of Italy and the country of Italy didn't start all the way till 1860. 1861, which isn't even that long ago. So it's a very new country.
Sicily was by itself?
Sicily was by itself, but it was part of the Empire of Spain in the time we're talking about.
Thank you.
So it was run by Spanish. So kind of rough to say in front of such a beautiful church. I respect the art and the Catholic Church. My family's Catholic and everything. I met the Pope. I love what it stands for. There's Saint Michael right there, one of my all-time saints. But like everything in life, and especially things with lots of power and money, nothing's perfect. So what happened next was something, a notorious time for the church, called the Spanish Inquisition, which also affected Palermo. Sadly. All right, kids. We got kids running. So the king and queen of Spain were King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. One of their edicts that they did was 1492, same year that they sent Columbus to go discover a lot of those places. Well, not discover, trying to get to India. It ended up being extending the Spanish Empire and exploration. A bunch of horrible stuff happened to the native people and slaves and all kinds of craziness afterwards. That's a whole nother story. Same year though, the Spanish Inquisition in Palermo was the same year as Columbus sailing, landing in the Bahamas or something like that. Alright, so let's move this. Any timer? Alright, so we talked a lot about the Jewish population, of the old Jewish population of Palermo. So basically, like a lot of places, Jewish people, the old Abrahamic religion, were treated pretty badly here. So they were forced to convert. Some were converted to Catholic. Some practiced in secret, a very small amount. A lot of people fled that were Jewish, but sadly, 1492 ended the oldest Jewish community in Europe that had been here since at least 100 BC, potentially, which is crazy. And then Islam had for sure been banned before 1492. I'm not sure when the last Muslim left or converted in Palermo. Sometime in the last few hundred years that I'll talk about here. Alright, like in the previous few hundred years before this, the religious acceptance quickly transitioned to extremism. There's a pope up there. A lot of it had to do with power and money, and it's just how things go. Saving souls, they really believe they were doing. Torturing people and doing horrible shit if they didn't convert, and blasphemy and excommunicating people. Oh man, why? Why? Oh, it's so terrible. So, this religious divisiveness really irks me to my bone, man. Even though, I'm raised Catholic and I respect all religions, this kind of thing, man, it's such an ugly part of humanity. It's really terrible. It's something, religion and belief and faith is supposed to be something all about love, and it brings people together, and it's spiritual, makes you a better person in society, gets you closer to the divine. gives a lot of people mystical experiences, but this, unfortunately, because of power and greed and just meanness, really gets twisted sometimes, like during the Spanish Inquisition here in Palermo. Anyways, fast forward a little bit, a lot of Jews moved back into Palermo in the 1800s. They had kind of a rough time during World War II. That's another story. But the community rebounded recently and actually converted a church into a synagogue that we visited, near the place where the Grand Synagogue once was. And also now there's a large Muslim community from Bengali, North Africa, Arabs, Africans, and more once exists also in the area where several mosques used to be. So I feel like it's really interesting how things kind of did full circle in a weird way, 360 degrees of faith, which now includes Hindus, evangelical Christians, and other non-Catholic sects that would have drove those psychotic Spanish rulers here in the 14 to 1500s nuts. But seriously though, to those Inquisition people that did all that horrible shit, fuck those guys. That's not Catholicism. That's evil, and I'm a Catholic. That shit is pure evil. But some nice artwork came out of it, right? Anyways, let's get positive again. All right, so the arts and architecture of Palermo continued to flourish into the 14, 15, and 1600s. Lots of construction was done, like the Porto Nova, churches, plazas, and more, including probably this one. A lot of plazas are very famous and beautiful in Sicily and Italy that were built during this time. We're getting negative again. However, there were heavy taxes and unruly Spanish viceroys that ran the city and barons. And they had these gangs of enforcers called bravos that were running around the streets getting money off of people. So the time of Charles V and Philip II, rulers of Spain, they're royal titans with all kinds of power in Europe and beyond, were kind of rough on the people of the city. Both the religious and gangster mentality of this time and Renaissance era looks like it had a lasting impact on Sicily, though. Not trusting authority, you know, and super Catholic, and you know, the way it ended up is kind of interesting. So I really wonder what all the languages were heard spoken in the streets at this time. This era that we just went over from the 1100s to the 1700s was the time where the modern Italian dialect came to be, which is interesting, which is a Romance language connected to Spain. The Spanish were here speaking Spanish. Some French people were here. Probably some other languages were still spoke, like Latin by the church and stuff. And yeah, let's go to the next spot. All right, hello here. This is a famous spot built during the history we're talking about. Here are the 4 saints and rulers, I think Spanish, possibly. Their insignias on the top, royal family. Famous area, walking street down each direction. The sea is right there. The palace is down there. Stretches all the way down this way. Alright, so we're talking about 1713. There was a treaty after a war, not here, but Spanish War versus the Dutch in Netherlands that handed over the power of Sicily to a French royal house called Savoia. That in 1734 was transitioned to the French royal house of Bourbon. That became intertwined with the Habsburgs with Spanish royalty. Maybe that's some of these people. Yes, bellissimo musica. Love it. So, you know, these royal ties, the Habsburgs were Austrian and Spanish and Bourbons and France and all these strange things. So they were running Palermo's history. Bourbon, like the bourbon whiskey. I wonder how the American whiskey got called bourbon. So, one famous ruler in Sicily named Charles III was crowned as king of the two Sicilies, which included the area around Naples, Campania, which Palermo was part of at that time. Oop, look out!
Sorry.
That's okay.
This guy was famous, so right at the palace there, he was made king of this realm of two Sicilies at the time. He was famous for his deformation. So this guy, man, he stopped playing the music. Should have gave him a euro. That was cool with the music. Anyway, this guy, Charles III, was deformed. His face was kind of, they have paintings of him where he looks kind of messed up and, you know, hey, I feel for the guy. He couldn't like eat right, I think, something like that. The reason for this, and he couldn't walk well, is because of royal inbreeding. So this happened a lot in royal blood families. They married their cousins and aunts and all kinds of, it's strange but true. So this guy was here, Charles III. But under him, Charles III, running Palermo and the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, a lot of construction and modernization was done. Maybe even the setup of these streets like this. Actually, probably. Pretty cool area here. So he was actually a decent ruler. He didn't rule from here though. His capital was in Napoli, Naples, which we went to not that long ago. So in the 1700s, when the American Revolution and then the French Revolution happened in 1789, local Sicilian people and actually all around Italy really wanted their freedom, man. They're being run by this Spanish, French royal houses for so long. Move over here a bit more. So late 1700s is when a Sicilian freedom revolutionary thought began to start, really. Because if you think about it, local Sicilians were ruled by outside forces for like most of their history, pretty much all of it. Which a lot of these pictures up here are. Oh look, there's Philip III. It says on the thing there, Hispania. So he was a Spanish guy. There's another one of Philip III. It looks like. Oh, another one it says there. So that's who built this. It was under the Spanish rule. Can't quite read it. Anyway, that's okay. So Sicily really wanted to, she just said it was built in the 16th century. So a little before the time we're talking about, but it definitely was here in 1700. Listening to a tour over there. It's interesting doing these videos in really high traffic tourist places. No one seems to mind right now, I don't think. Alright, so French Revolution time we're talking about, after 1789. So 1820 to 1848, so all kinds of local upheavals and protests for sovereignty. So, this was also at the time when the barons and Catholic Church lands were being transitioned to private ownership, and which starts leading into the powerful groups of people that we're going to talk about in a second, indoors, famous from Sicily. So all of this upheaval from 1820 to 1848 saw a lot of people become really poor. There was a lot of banditry going on. People really didn't like these Habsburg French kings that were ruling Palermo and the barons that they sent in to run all these lands and own all these farms, and it was crazy. So it culminated in someone named Giuseppe La Massa in 1848. He led an insurrection, the first of many attempted revolutions that happened all over Europe that my Austrian ancestor was also involved in Austria-Hungary Empire, which is not too far from here. So the 1848 revolutions was widespread, even here. This guy, actually successfully drafted a parliament and constitution of a free city. So Palermo was briefly free in 1848. But the Bourbons sent in some troops and crushed this uprising really quickly. And a year later, 1849, the House of Bourbon retook the city. So until just a couple decades later, in 1860, the famous person Giuseppe Garibaldi entered the city with his troops coming in from mainland Italy in the Italian Freedom Revolution, I guess. And Giuseppe Garibaldi entered Palermo in 1860 and took it. Hey, there comes the music again. Perfect time. In 1861, Sicily became part of the Kingdom of Italy, where it remains to this day. For better or worse, but it's a cool spot, cool music. Next, we're gonna go indoors and talk about a phenomenon that came from these streets, the Sicilian mafioso, La Cosa Nostra. We're going to talk about that in a second. Alright, so the era we're talking in the 1600s is when this was put up. This area right around here has to do with the several thousands of years of history we just talked about. The sea is right behind the camera, beautiful camera lady here. And story, there's the sea. Nice little park here. Played some basketball, did some working out actually. Alright, can you see that rock over there? Well, there's a tree kind of hiding in. Alright, the story that I'm going to tell next kind of jumps around a little bit in history, but it has to do with the 1600s Palermo. And the patron saint of Palermo, Saint Roselia. So in the 1600s, right from this port here, the city was hit by, pretty interesting to be talking about this in 2020, it was hit by the plague really bad. The plague was brought in by traders coming into the port right here, 1600s. So it was very bad for the city, lots of death. And by the way, this, the city in the 1200s and 1300s, it really tanked down from its heights of 500,000 people to maybe 40,000 people. That's it. Sorry. So the story we're going to tell has to do with the palace that I was at. Let's go back to the Norman times real quick. And let's check out this princess, Roselia. Let's check out her room and the room of her dad that I filmed a couple weeks ago. Let's go there and check it out. The era we're talking, 1600s, this gate was built. And the port is right in front of me here. Nice little park, the sea. And it's my favorite place to catch a sunset. Let's see if we could get one. Anyway, this is like the real ancient area that stretched into there from where that gate is. That gate's not that old, but this is where a lot of Palermo history went down, man. So let's talk about a story now on this rock. You can't see it as good over here. We're gonna have to go back this way. Yeah, that thing's pretty cool. Anyways, behind me there's the ancient port and the mountains, sea, just crazy, man. Yeah. All right, hello everybody from interior old Palermo here, where we have some destruction. It says 1943 right there, and some destruction from the times we're talking about here. But this is an old neighborhood that has to do with a lot of this history we're talking about. Old alleyways, this is the original setup of the city from the Arab times, Normans, and beyond. Which I love, but it's kind of crazy sometimes. There's some old fountain here that's still around. Somehow. Alright. But we're talking about not that long ago history. 1940. 1943 it says it. That was built by King Philip of Spain, that fountain. We talked about that a lot earlier. But let's go to the 1940s real quick. So in World War II, Italy was a part of the Axis powers. After Mussolini rose to power in Rome in the 30s. And, you know, for many years during World War II, 1939, 40, 41, 42, they were sending soldiers to the fronts, of course. But there was no direct action in the city. You know, the city went about its business, and you know, lots of soldiers from Sicily fought in the war. Like this guy met, actually, he was 100 years old. He was from this little village outside of Palermo. He was on the Eastern Front in Russia with the Germans, which is really crazy. I actually met this man. Talk about intense. You know, in these governments and at this time, you can't judge everybody, right? A lot of young people, and the way those governments function at the time, and you know, nationalism and everything. It's not like they had a choice. you either joined and fought for the cause, or you got executed or something. A lot of times, man, it's like a lot of people are real judgmental after the fact. If you were in those shoes, who knows what you would have done. All right, so we're in 1940s. During the war, the local split their power between North and South Palermo. The local mafias are kind of still running things around here. And then 1943 happened, which is engraved on this wall. A sad day for the city of Palermo. And give me a second. So in 1943, after the Allies, mostly USA, United Kingdom, and Canada, made lots of gains in North Africa, they pretty much beat the Nazis back, and some Italians, but mostly Nazi Germans back out of North Africa in big tank battles and stuff. The city was sadly Palermo. In the year it commemorates their bomb, heavily Allied bomb. So a lot of buildings were never rebuilt until recently. Some never at all. Likely. The way it is, it's been like that since 1943. I've seen several churches, several famous buildings, you know, several ancient buildings, not ancient, but several old churches, several things with pock marks on it. And, you know, I've been to a lot of places, Poland, I've been to Germany itself, I've been to other places where there was World War II damage, London even, Tokyo. You could see it in the old buildings. And likely that's what happened here to an apartment building that got knocked down. So, you know, the sad thing about indiscriminate bombing is it's real rough on the local populations. They likely had underground bunkers, somewhere to hide. The city was bombed heavily. Just imagine right here. It's just sad for me to talk about, man. Plane bomb, you know, these American bomber ships flying over, B-52s or whatever. And just think about how terrifying that was. It's not funny at all, you know. Like me, and most people have never been through anything like that, and we're complaining all the time about stupid shit like we can't get a bag of chips that we want, or something stupid. Just kidding. But you know, it's crazy. So the city was bombed heavily, and then the invasion of Sicily happened, led by Dwight Eisenhower, the American general who later became president. And he was leading American, British, and Canadian forces from their command center in the tunnels under the island nation of Malta nearby. So it was a total of 6 weeks naval and amphibious land and airborne campaign all over the island of Sicily, with some paratroopers and gliders coming in. So a lot of places on the island, you know, they couldn't access. There's mountains everywhere, so people in parachutes and British people with gliders, soldiers were coming in. Talk about crazy, man. You go up there in a plane, you're flying out, planes were getting shot by anti-aircraft. You know, this was crazy. 19-year-old kids. Oh man, World War II just boggles my mind every time. Anyways, the island was defended by hundreds of thousands of fascist Italian and tens of thousands of Nazi German soldiers. So they were ingrained in Palermo, ready to fight it out, and all over Sicily. Several actions occurred at once. There was a brilliant tacticians to crush the resistance. Casualties were high, and some citizens sadly were killed in Palermo. By late summer 1943, just like that year says, this building was bombed. The city was taken by the Allied forces. So right in the middle of right here, and everyone in Palermo was just a war zone, man. Street fighting. You could still see bullet marks in certain areas. You could obviously see bombed ruins like this. It's really crazy to think about as we are so luxuriously making a video and stuff. It's really sad. Rest in peace to all people from all sides. War is crazy. World War II definitely was one of the craziest. Alright, I'm going off track here. So, this event, actually, Palermo getting taken in Sicily, led to the Italians and the rest of the peninsula rising up against Mussolini and assassinating him in Rome and his wife. Because, you know, there was a lot of people that weren't exactly in line with the government at the time. Just like is expected, really. They were doing some crazy stuff. So this forced Hitler to divert a huge amount of forces from the Eastern Front, where they were definitely needed. So the Soviet and Eastern Front of World War II was brutal, just like I said that 100-year-old man was. So they had to send them back to Italy, to this front, because the Allies were making a huge gains in Sicily. Sicily was the launch point for the rest of Italy and Southern Europe. It was disastrous battle and loss for the Axis power. Tens of thousands of troops dead, hundreds of thousands wounded, captured or missing. Palermo, though, was not actually attacked from the sea like most places. It was too hard to get to for the amphibious assault. They actually came down from the mountains on July 23rd, 1943. They came down, paratroopers came down. Other troops that were inland. A lot of damage occurred in the city that you could still see in some places. But it wasn't total destruction. A lot of real historic, amazing buildings and neighborhoods survived, thank goodness. Many of the bombed out buildings weren't fixed until the 1990s or later. Some, like this one, were never fixed. So this neighborhood is as it stands, pretty much, from 1943 till now. And that's the intense history of that. Cheers. Let's go get a beer. Looks like an old bunker. World War II. 70 years old, showing its age a little bit. Ooh, you could go in there still. That's kind of freaky. People with binoculars and machine guns could point any direction here. There's something else over there. This is crazy. Whoa! A pillbox. World War II. Imagine being in here. German or Italian soldiers probably both used it. So you can get a whole view of someone amphibious landing pretty much 180 here. Coming from that side, coming from out here, coming from out here. If there's any enemy ships out there, with binoculars. Imagine having to hang out here. And all these slits too. You can put out a heavy machine gun. I don't know what this part is here. I think maybe they, on top of this was some kind of big gun. Maybe like an artillery gun that was on this, and it's just a little circular thing. You hang out, sit down, take a rest. Right here, it looks like there's an area where someone had a gun pointing out, but you know, it's still here. It wasn't blown up, but imagine bullets coming in. You're inside one of these things. How terrifying that would be, man. 70 years ago, if that, you know, things happened like that in here and down below, if you're getting attacked too heavy, bombs are coming at you.
There's a shelter.
Down below, there's a shelter, and if someone's coming in from the door, there's this slit right here. That's what this is for. Bow, bow.
So you saying?
No, definitely. Because they have to come in around this corner, and that's
Right
super
here.
dangerous. And down there, we're not going down there. That's where you hide out. There's all kinds of trash and women's underwear, and who knows what happens inside there. X-rated stuff now. Crazy! Just look at it from the outside. Just hastily put together. Yeah, that's definitely what this is. Gotta be another maybe artillery, maybe where they store the weapons, bullets and stuff over there. This is an obvious barrier behind, so no one's coming in from that way. That's why the thing was looking out. Man, I can't imagine being like 20 years old, Southern Italian, having to deal with that kind of crazy stuff. I think every day could be your last. You're looking out for your friends and comrades. You're young. The war is killing tons of people every day. Here we are in another Italian World War II bunker. Imagine being on the lookout. They probably had a heavy machine gun here. You know, it's war is crazy shit. Oh, the wind got my phone. All right. War is terrible. It's not funny, it's not a joke, but it's crazy that this is still here. Amphibious assault was how the Allies captured Sicily, so they probably hastily built some bunkers like this, machine gun positions, lookout points, and man, imagine just having to duck down when you're getting fired upon and look out. Oh my God, that shit's crazy to think about. Nothing that I've ever done. Alright, so this was just a hollowed out rock that was up here somewhere. Storage for the weapons and bullets. That's what it looks like from that side here. Just hold it like that. I'm going back in. They're coming! They're coming! They're coming! Woo! All there is the Windsor over there now. Peace, man. I'm all about peace now. Thank goodness I never have had to deal with anything that this was built for in my life. And most of us haven't, so, you know, but respect to that. Okay.
Triple the fresh water you would normally drink.
World War II ruins. Check the comments for what exactly happened. Mountain goats up there on the cliff sides. Mountain goats are fearless animals, man. Their hoofs are specially designed to scale inclines on an angle. They're all hanging out up there. Black, white, brown ones. Some are sitting down. That's crazy. I don't know what was going on here. This is like a tile floor that was here. I don't know. Maybe this was like part of an old resort that was here on the sea. Someone said they're World War II. I'm gonna look them up. Pretty cool. Oops, sorry about that. A little bit weird angle. Look at this place. Hello!
Stop, you're gonna disrupt them.
I'm in another lookout point, WW2 pillbox. This one is even less defended, and it's just a hollowed out rock. And you know, you can see all kinds of directions here. You got these little iron spigots maybe to hold up the guns on each side. What? Oh. What are you doing? Oh no. Well, I don't know if I got you on camera. World War II, cool. Alright, man. That's these abandoned buildings. These insane mountains. Sicily, the ocean's right behind me. Got some mountain goats right there. You can kind of see them. See them? Black and white. This place. Wow. There's a cave over there. I want to go explore up in these hills, but I don't want to fall. That would suck. I'm going to go swimming again, but I think these are World War II ruins, I've heard. Some kind of pillboxes or defensive position, or I don't know, I guess maybe the Italian troops built them. Maybe the Nazis used them when they came down here to help build them. I'm not sure, but they're all burnt out and you know, they didn't get destroyed. This would be a good spot. Who could come in from behind you? Okay, just a disclaimer, Maston. Things have been changing in the time here in Sicily. So cases been going up, so I'm wearing the mask all times. Not like other times in the video, but just, I hope you can hear me. All right, we're going into this part of this grand building being built. But first, I would like to mention a couple things. One thing is, there's an interesting ethnic minority of Albanians that are connected to here in Palermo in Sicily, who fled their Greek Orthodox Albanian ethnicity, and they're called Abrash. Oh man, I can't even say it. But they fled to Italy, not Italy, southern Italy and Sicily in like the 1300s. This is information learned after the fact of this writing of the script. So they fled the Ottoman expansion in like the 1400s, 1500s, and they settled here, and there's like several tens of thousands of ethnic Albanians in Palermo actually, which is interesting because we're going there next. All right, and one more thing, but I'll tell it through the time of this story. So this grand building, the Massimo Theater and Opera House and Music Hall, was built in 1897. So this is one of several buildings, beautiful buildings. Hello, ciao. With lots of classical inspiration, like the columns and the design is just amazing, man. 1897 that was built. So that's the time we're talking about now. So the turn of the century, 1900s Palermo. Though, even though nice buildings were being built with guess who's influence, probably the Massimo too. Like the rest of southern Italy, suffered from less emphasis on industrialization and economy than the Rome in the north. But Palermo actually came through better than most places. Grand buildings were built like this. Avenues were built like these. As the automobile came onto the scene. And let's move to the front of the Massimo to finish this off. Alright, one more part of World War II and Mafia and Sicily history. Ooh, look at the mountains back there. Alright, so there was a crime boss that the American Navy sought help from that we talked about, Lucky Luciano. So he had connections in Sicily, which was Mussolini fascist government, and they actually assisted the invasion of Sicily that we just talked about, which is crazy, as well as protecting the port of New York. So I didn't say this earlier, but I researched this later. So Mr. Lucky Luciano, he was in prison during this time, and the U.S. government pardoned him for his help in World War II. But the deal was he was in prison for a prostitution ring for several years. This guy was rough, man. He had a scar on his face, all kinds of craziness. Oh, I'm sorry. I also neglected that the city of Las Vegas and all its grandeur was founded by the Sicilian Mafia also for casinos. American. Okay. Anyway, Lucky Luciano was pardoned for his help in World War II, but he had to get deported. He wanted to go to Sicily, but he went to Napoli instead, and then he secretly went to Cuba and some other places. It's a crazy story, but yeah, the American Sicilian families continue to go on, and that could be a whole different podcast that I could do. That's a whole different thing. Let's focus on Sicily. Right now, we'll get into the modern era, into the 1990s and 2000s, over here. Okay, front of the Massimo, we're in the 1900s, when my beautiful camera woman ancestors in 1907 and 1897, around this time we're talking about, migrated from here to California, all the way to San Jose, California, of all places. 1897 and 1907. So this is the time we're talking about, like when this was built. Okay, so the other thing, I said there was a couple things that I failed to mention. The second thing was when I was talking a little bit about the families of Sicily and that organization. So I failed to mention the Sicilian American Mafia was a little bit different. The five families were the five families of New York, Bonanno, Gambino, a couple others. It actually was a little bit separate from Sicily itself. It was related, but not really. And also, what sparked it off in America was actually the prohibition of alcohol. So, you know, the war on drugs, stuff like that. Ooh, they're doing something interesting over here. The war on drugs actually creates more organized criminals and more money, just like prohibition of alcohol did in America. But that's a whole different story. Let's go back to Palermo. I think made a little bit mistake on that earlier. Alright, so this building was built, several avenues were built, and you know, Palermo was doing pretty cool, man. Ooh, that's a cool thing. Alright, so interwar, Italy was in World War I on the Allies side, with Britain and France, US against Germany and Turkey and Austro-Hungary. Several soldiers from Palermo fought bravely in the war and died. World War I was terrible, man. A lot of people forget about World War I. It was only like 100 years ago. Around the time when this was just a new building. All right, we're gonna talk about some intense stuff, so let's back away from the all right. So, you know, early 1900s, 1920s, worldwide politics and everything going on, the end of World War I, the end of the old world. It was very complicated. The Russian Revolution, there was all kinds of crazy shit going on, man, everywhere. The retributions against Germany and their economy tanking, and southern Italy was, you know, not doing so great with a lot of poor people, but there was an elite class, and they, you know, they had those organizations going on, and we talked about that. So 1920s, 1930s, Palermo saw the rise of more fascism, especially with the working classes. Benito Mussolini came to power as a dictator in Rome. He cracked down hard on the Sicilian leadership, which pretty much was the mafia. And the U.S. prohibition, like I said, made the American Sicilian mafia go from the street gang status to the largest organized crime network in the world, which is a whole different story. We don't need to. So, some stuff happened, you know, World War II kicked off, and we'll talk about that in a second. Initially, there wasn't any violence in the city of Palermo, but soldiers were being recruited for the army into the Axis powers, and yeah, early 1900s. Oh, one more thing. From 1880 or so to 1930, 1 million Sicilians moved to the United States of America. 1 million. That's a huge bulk of people. One of the largest diasporas of any specific region in the world, maybe other than Ireland. So this was a huge shift of people from even here, especially here in Palermo. So yeah, that's that history. We'll get into World War II and the tragicness of that in a second. All right, so let's wrap this up. Once again, the virus situation is ticking up. That's the reason for the mask. Don't be mad at me. Just trying to keep everyone safe. You know, it's sad shit thinking about someone's grandma dying or something. You know, it's messed up. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. Also, a famous person died today. A lot of people are sad about. Okay, that's off topic. Let's finish up modern Palermo. So, Palermo in Sicily, a part of the modern country of Italy, who has been a member of NATO alliance. This area was likely built up from World War II damaged buildings, which you can see a little bit over there, some of them. This is like a governmental area, and you know, the city has its layers of unique history, and it's a vibrant place today. You see hear the kids playing, and it's one of the most beautiful coasts on the Mediterranean, and one of the most incredible beaches that I've ever seen, with the crystal blue waters. It's really incredible, man, and the mountains back all everywhere. The vibrant history, modern 2020 Palermo is awesome. There's a vibrant shopping and walking districts, tourists and locals alike intermingling despite, you know, everything right now. Lots of newly arrived South Asians, Sub-Saharan Africans, East Asians, and more have revitalized the city center. Yo! And the youth culture, I've noticed, is very artistic, progressive, hip, and they love to be Palmerian. It's an interesting kind of liberal, fun culture. Hey! Like the kids riding the electric motor scooters. Look out, more kids. Okay. All right, so you can see it in their eyes of the youth, the future of Palermo, of all that history we just talked about. They're vibrant, tons of energy, fun, high hopes for the future. Unlike some of the rough times in its history, we'll see what happens. You can see it in their eyes. Bars, restaurants, and people walking through the streets are a way of life every day. And although its past is a confusion of a myriad of influences in history, the people's DNA, like my camera woman here, and like these guys right here, the DNA is a mix of Phoenician, Greek, Roman, Arab, Norman, Spanish, French, potentially Italian, Sicilian, and Italian. The instances of a violence and war. Yeah, some recently. This is a fun way to close out the video. All these instances of the past are still felt to this day, and the art, high culture, high passion, and unique attitude makes this place bellissimo. And emphasis has been made on tourism in the past 10 or so years, even with considering everything, and people arrive by ferry or plane to explore the city's 3 millennia of bellissimo history, magical folklore and history and vibrant energy. So ciao Palermo. That's that. Let's go.